Hey, what's going on, everyone? Astrology Eric Rosen here, and I wanted to take a deeper look and have the chart actually pulled up for talking about this big weekend that we have ahead with the solar eclipse in Aries, but also Neptune ingressing into Aries. We're also going to see Mercury retrograde back into Pisces right after that solar eclipse. And so the solar eclipse, of course, is on Saturday, the 29th, and then immediately after, Venus comes into Aries for the first time in well over 150 years. And hello, start of a new world, start of a new paradigm. But of course, I covered a lot of this already in the weekly video that I do, Celestial Conversations, I put out on Wednesdays. Of course, you can always check that out. I throw that up on YouTube, my social media channels. But when I do those, I'm doing it raw, just off channeling the astrology and just seeing it in my head. I kind of like hang around and zing around the stars, and I just know where things are at. But sometimes details get missed, especially South Node and Virgo. It's not perfect. And that's, of course, not what this is about, is like giving a perfect horoscope for what's coming. But I kind of just wanted to have it in front of me to kind of just like look at, because I think I'm doing this partly for the honor of, well, one, it's just my passion, it's my creativity, but also just for anyone that's freaking out and going through the extremes of the highs and lows of Pisces, or not feeling well, or is this thing going to make it, or why does it feel for some maybe like we're literally at the edge of the wall in the Truman Show, and we have been brave to get there and to go through those emotional storms and shadow work and everything that we've persevered through, but now we're hesitant. Do we want to go on the other side of it, where it's like Ed Harris was trying to act like Jim Carrey's dad in that movie and trying to get him to stay and be like, we'll take care of you. This is your home. And so that's where we got to get out of that psychotic, illusionary nature of Pisces, which that's what Ed Harris is trying to do, is get him to stay in the illusion. And so we have to leave the illusion of anything that's been our own white lies, our own self sabotage, where we hold ourselves back, where we're afraid, just the deeply suppressed fears that can feel irrational and chaotic at times, but oftentimes they're very connected to the deep embedded past and past lives with it being Pisces. And to actually enter in a very weird, you know, to use this metaphor as if the Pope was a good thing, which maybe it's not, but like the Pope enters Aries and it's like, what up, bitches? This is who I am. This is the spiritual expression of me, of the hard work. But now I'm ready to do some even more real work, because that's the weird thing about Pisces, is it's like it can feel so real, but like, is it real? In Aries, it becomes really real. And so who's the real spiritual OG that's actually gonna brand and market themselves to the world in a way that you're expressing your full identity? Because that's what's weird. It's like, I use that word market and brand yourself because it's almost like an expression of, you're only as good as how you authentically show up, because so much of the veil is like falling down that we can't use smoke and mirrors and Wizard of Oz curtains and the institutional structures that are getting pulled down in a lot of ways. Like, think about how things were in 2020 when the lockdowns happened and people had to stay home. And then I was like, oh, wow, I don't actually like being home or being around my family or my kids or these people, and like separations happened and people went crazy. You know, some people really enjoyed the isolation. And so, like, now this is a lot of coming out of that, especially with the Saturn Uranus sextile that's going to be happening a lot of this year, to actually break us out of these old systems and to actually move forward into the future and to get out of our comfort zone in a big way. that it was never comfortable to begin with. It was actually kind of crazy and psychotic that, you know, taking more comfort in the introverted nature and lack of connection and there's almost a reset happening now of like what the spiritual connection looks like because Neptune has to change the frequency and change the channel from um, the Pisces zone to like the Aries zone of things, where it's like we're going to have to learn to channel in different ways and intuitively. And I think, you know, if you're someone who has been feeling like your intuition's like off or you're not connected spiritually, just it's okay. It's part of the circus. It's a part of the resets and the recalibration of transitioning from the very end of the zodiac to the new. And so don't feel like you've lost something because that's what Pisces can feel like with Neptune at the end is like something got lost, but it wasn't supposed to be. And it brings up fear of what's next. How am I going to go forward? Can I? Is there even a way to go forward? So just know that spirit is around us and that with Venus at the end of Pisces retrograde, it can feel very non-physical, like the energy is not there, that receptive, transpersonal, feminine connection's not there. Um, that the gift doesn't feel like it's fully there. Then Mercury comes here on the 30th, or excuse me, 29th with the eclipse and goes, yeah, no, like we got to go on some crazy fact finding mission for something to stabilize our nature, which could be anything from our health to our just well being with prosperity of health, of relationships. And it's not really about going on a crazy search. It's more about the updating the ego identity to a better place. But before I get too deep, you know, into this horoscope, because just letting the organic nature of it flow, did want to give a couple of shameless plugs. First and foremost, I do want to talk about this event that's coming up. I'm teaming up with CFIT Living, and basically we've got several different speakers that are going to be in the St. Louis, Missouri area. So if you're near St. Louis, this is technically in Wentzville, but it's a wellness summit. It's for women only, but it's like a slumber party. It's at the Energy Infusion Room where you can come, you can use the beds, you can recharge your energy, you know, sort of like align those chakras, so to speak, and just really drop into some deep self care, but also get some group tutoring basically through like lectures from experts in their industry. Of course, I'll be there doing my astrology piece, especially focused on the lens of relationships. So this is a live event only. So I'll have this link down in the description of the video if you want to book your spot. But, you know, it is an opportunity for connecting with like-minded women. Of course, you can do the day pass for $75. You can do the sleepover where you actually get to sleep in these beds that are like these energy infused beds that are designed to like recharge you and actually because I mean really when you think about the astrology a lot of what we're going through is a frequency reset and so fear is kind of like the enemy, you know, like fear is the only thing to fear, so to speak, but it's also an illusion. But we have, you know, we're going to be talking about sensual movement. Kel's doing sensual movement. Angela's doing her talk on the intuitive woman. TJ is going to be talking about mindset. Samantha, who put this together, who you see there on the right, she's going to be talking about her field of expertise of gut health and hormones, hustle your mindset. So more mindset work, which is crucial during this time by Brittany. And of course, I mentioned I'm doing my astrology relationship piece. And then Aaron is doing breath work. So check it out if that's something that you're interested in. Again, that link will be down below. And of course, you know, as always, if someone needs an astrology reading, the calendar will, as always, be posted. And well, until it's not, unless something changes, because I know there's other projects coming in my future, but for now, I'm keeping the calendar system pretty wide open to help people out during this time. I did have someone ask the other day about financing options for astrology readings. I am building out a new website where I do have a link for financing options. It's through like some of those third party ones like Klarna and Afterpay. If you're okay with using those, they may or may not charge interest. I don't know, to be honest, but I'll drop that link down below for people if they, maybe even thinking about a reading, but you want the guidance now, but kind of want to like budget, maybe cash flow's the thing. Everyone's in different spaces right now. Like there's a lot of really divine resetting energy around money and currency energetically, and it's above, it's on earth, it's a lot. Anyone who's acting like they have it figured out, like financially right now, with where the world's going with money and finance and solving debts and what's the new currency or the new asset, like it's more so about allowing yourself to get excited by just being prosperous and abundant and not making it identified as like one specific thing, because that would be your ego wanting to believe that it's the hard, fast thing like crypto or something, where you have to be more, especially the Venus retrograde, the intangible part right now, where it's like you're just like flowing with the understanding of like where money stuff is going, and that it's really just up in the air, and that could be scary, but the same structures that deal with currencies and other programs and just the regularly scheduled program falling down is opening up a wild, wild west, especially with how much AI is going to be rolling out these next few months. Part of the positive change, in my opinion, because it is like it's here, and I don't think we need to fear it. And if you're still afraid of it, I would just go watch The Matrix 4. And if you're not, if you don't remember the first three, maybe go back and watch those. Like those movies are timeless for spiritually awakened messages. And I felt like The Matrix 4, even though a lot of people didn't see it because of the time that it came out after COVID. And I think there was some filming delays and shit, but it's it really updates the understanding of what we're going through in a lot of ways. So, but that link will be down below, as well as the straightforward link. Because the one I do want to say, the one with the financing option, you will have to email me and we'll have to set it up manually for the Zoom link, and also getting your birth details, because again, the website's not built out fully. So, anyways, so we do have. I want to say that the Neptune piece is not something to be feared coming into Aries. Like it's one of these things where the delays only happen when we're the most afraid, or and that's when we're always deepest in the ego too, right? When we're not sure of our survival, we're not sure of the new way of initiating things. Thank God, actually, that the solar eclipse is coming before Neptune, to kind of like set the tone for moving forward, to like kind of like pave the way for what it is that we're going into this next 6 months. Of course, I mentioned before in Celestial Conversations that Neptune and the Sun are actually, um, that solar eclipse are actually going to be aligned very well. So, but I think a lot of this too is just focusing on saying peace out, to Neptune that's been in Pisces since 2011, where we're in this position where think about how long of your life that's been this last 13, 14 years. I mean, I got custody of my son when Neptune first went into Pisces back in 2011. So, you know, that's obviously been a significant part of my life. And so it's one of those things where it's like crazy to think that we're going into a whole new world. It's normal right now to like go through these oscillating, crazy frequency extreme shifts in Pisces, sensitivities, doubts, fears. The spiritual mastery lesson, though, invitation with all the Pisces and Aries is to go, because, it's like I wasn't feeling well. I was very tired. It's normal to be tired right now. All the Pisces, the square that's still not fully done yet between Chiron and Mars. And so it's one of those things where it's like fatigue is a thing, but I was like, it's South Node in Virgo. So it's like, well, fuck, it's not going to be some standard practical fix. Just throw a supplement at it, throw a piece of fruit at it, a vegetable, do an exercise thing, perfect the perfect routine. Like routines and schedules are just entrapment right now, to be honest. Like it's sloppy, but we got to go with the flow and be okay with how the new way things are going to go. And so I asked my guides, I'm like, well, but I don't feel well, so what's up? And they're like, started channeling the Arcturians actually, and they're like, hey, like this is just self-doubt, just an iteration of fear of you believing that you can be in a more balanced frequency of a sense of mastery. Specifically, they said ascended mastery because I did apparently reach that and enlightenment in a past life. And so I'm just back to do it again and face all the human stuff that we're all very much facing the human stuff with South Node and Virgo. So the North Node in Pisces, even though we got a solar eclipse in Aries and Neptune is coming into Aries, the big spotlight in a lot of ways is still on the spiritual mastery of it, of mastering our frequency. But the mastery, it kind of comes from more of a school of hard knocks with Saturn here and the sloppiness and the disciplines of the Mr. Miyagi wax on, wax off, or, a spiritual teacher that you see in the movies that is not like super kind, but they're kind of mysterious. And the student's like, what the fuck are they doing? And you almost like kind of like, you know, resent them because they're being a dick and you just wanted to be nice to the student. You're watching the movie. The student wants them to like be more transparent, but there's a hidden philosophy of the discipline spiritually. So you could think of it like that the universe is teaching us in a weird way that it can't just be all soft and compassionate and like overly empathetic or woke or something because of all the Aries energy, that we have to get prepared for that it's not going to be that way in this new world. And that's why I named this chart the new world, because Neptune really is in your face. Like we're not going back. Pluto's already in Aquarius. Neptune's in Aries for a bit. Saturn will catch up in May. Uranus will visit uh, Gemini for the first time in over 80 years, starting in July for a bit. So it's masculine energies, right? The air signs, the fire signs are masculine. So it's the outer planets in air mostly and some fire. So very masculine approach to things. And it's not that we don't have empathy, but it is the return of the man, to be honest with you. Like it is the return of the strength of the masculine energy. Is it still going to have some really fucked up cosmetic wounds in terms of it with Chiron still in Aries? Sure, but it's more of the ego stuff. That's more of like the you have what it takes. Like you're a guide, you're a master, and like whatever it is that you could say destined to approach in life, but then that is aligning your free will with your destiny's calling in a lot of ways. This deep spiritual sense of what are you here to do, right? Because the wound only gets worse when you're feeling mad, aggressive, violent, in survival mode, frustrated, pissed. I think the weird thing about Chiron is that like some people try to like put mascara on and act like they're not upset, or that they're like trying to normalize being upset and it's not normal. to feel that way. Like 70% of the population, human design, generator, manifesting generators, the not self theme is frustration, So it's like we're acting out of character alignment when we're frustrated or when we feel stuck and frustrated or we're judging the stuck feeling and we're not surrendered fully to how energy works, where it will seem to the mind like it's pulsing because it's not moving in front of our very eyes, but it's always moving. It's just that's more in the subconscious. And so what we're dealing a lot with this endings of this Pisces is ending the negativity of the subconscious stuff, where it's like, how long has it been marketed in our face of through movies and media to expect Armageddon when the astrology doesn't support that. It more just supports it being a violent energetic zone where it's like it's violent when the ego declares war on how things are transitioning in energy. That's all it is. But the peace comes, the violence goes away when we surrender and to go, okay, well, this is just the new start. But then it's also not about just like sleeping in and, you know, Neptune comes in Aries and people start wishing they were Bill Murray and Groundhog Day and to go back to the old Pisces shit when, because it's having to sort of intuitively figure things out on the fly a little bit to go, whoa, like what a wake up call. Like, you mean there is a new start? There is something on the other side of all the events that have happened the past few years? Like we're not going to meet our maker and demise. And it's like, no, unless like you're hell bent on not allowing the spiritual evolutions that are wanting to come in and fighting your karma and your past lives, like that's a real thing. It's like the tough nature of this in your face energy is like the wake up call. It can feel like being behind, but the behind feeling is more so feeling like, wait, I lost my luggage, but it's like you wanted to lose the luggage. That was your baggage. Like, come into this time bare. Like, it's like no shoes, no shirt, no problem. Like God just wants us to come in and initiate our dreams and our visions in the way that now we're able to design them easier. But what we're finishing up is the stuff that gets in the way of believing that dream is possible because of all the setbacks and disappointments that have happened. And so Pisces is the widest zone when it comes to the structures of understanding. I would say a lot of this with Saturn is going to be, it goes back to your own subjective plight in this reality that you've experienced that's especially with the sextile to Uranus that's unique to you and the choices that you made and the people that you're around in the world, your relationships, your value systems, where you're at with prosperity on all levels. So it's going to be different for everyone, but it's like I would definitely use the remainder of this time of Neptune at the end of the Pisces, if you're catching this before the 30th, to go, what is the one thing that needs to wrap up and at least be forthcoming with spirit, with God, and to go, I am willing to get out of this toxic cycle in any way that is holding me back from this new world. And the truth is that we're all in some toxic cycle. Everyone could say that use the Pisces and put the social media out and just say their life's great and all this shit. You're full of shit. I'm sorry. There's one thing I won't budge on. Anyone who's saying that their life is as beautiful and shiny Pisces as it looks in social media and their personal life with the Chiron Mars square, like, hello, like it's a solar eclipse in Aries, Chiron's still in Aries, Mars is the ruler of Aries where this eclipse is happening and it's in Cancer square. It's like, what's really going on the personal life, the home front. How are you actually feeling? The dedication right now is actually interface about how do we just better self-care? What's the relationship with the mother, but more so like subconsciously, how do we learn to mother ourselves based upon how we were parented growing up or lack thereof? And so this is where we actually have to take our right hand man of our subconscious in a crazy way and go, hey, I need your orders right now are to figure out how to make sure that we're good for the long haul. Like we're replenishing, we've been replenishing, we've been doing it, but it's not fully over. What are the last things that we got to do to actually heal so that we don't walk around with the limp for the rest of our lives, being stuck in the past and disappointment and the grievances and thinking that the last few years was the worst ever, that the world went wrong, the collective went wrong. It was all based on the astrology. It's actually opening for everything that you can create in your life that's right, where that's what the Pisces teaches us is like the release happens and the dream can happen. This astrology is teaching us it's the emotional blockages that are causing issues where people are having to fake it to betray their own moral compass. It's teaching us how to step back into integrity with evolved value systems that are actually good for everybody, not just like a hidden personal agenda. And to do these things is all authentic. That's the spiritual soul growth. And so when Neptune comes in here to Aries, I think I said this in the Wednesday video, but it's like, do we is it the doubling down on the ego spiritually of the guru pope head pulpit shit, or is it the accepting that we're all getting a fresh start and that we're all being initiated into something that's like really weird and different and foggy, and that means though that I don't, it's not to get like too weird, but like Hunger Games like, but like if it was like not kids and it was just for play, and that's what's hard is like based upon where the collective has been primarily from the deep subconscious beliefs and fear-based ways of living and scarcity and things going bad and operating out of fear. It can feel like kids running around where everyone has a chance to win and that, but you got to like find the resource of the weapon, but it's like that's like bottom of the barrel frequency stuff collectively. Most people won't do that because I feel like most people are in a position where the ones that have been doing the deep spiritual work and authentic living and creating and building their life in a way that feels like a deeper spiritual calling will keep going. And there's going to be people that finally do get tired of things like people they're not in vibrational alignment with and their relationships with listening to the media, and they're just over it and they're finally ready to adapt and authentically vibe with what's being role modeled by people that did chose to like do this work for the past however many years of like true awakening. But I will say that there's no place to really hide in authenticity except building a domicile with this energy of just being around other people that are inauthentic, and that'll be your safe zone is you'll just have to be around other people that still want to use the Pisces energy, the early Neptune energy to kind of just like not call a spade and just be like, hey, this is what it is. Like I'm coming from fear, you're coming from fear, whatever it is. It's it's grace, it's transparency, it's vulnerability, you know. Like I was talking with a friend today and it was like we were talking about what we were going through in these extremes and the relatability. And I think that's where it's at. It's a remembrance that the most easiest basic way to use this astrology is to keep showing up and doing your best, but then also like have authentic, vulnerable conversations with people that get it. But not in a way to just reinforce your belief of your reality if it sucks, but more so just be like, here's how my experience is, and other people that are experiencing it the same, that's a good thing because A, that is more credible than like a mainstream media source or social media, but also you can feel less crazy, less isolated, less alone with all this energy. And I think that's going to continue. We're going to be continuing into a world where it's more about who are people that you feel comfortable around, but it's not comfortable hiding comfortable. It's comfortable that, hey, this is all new and different. And Aries is an aggressive energy. It's malefic, right? It rules war and going for it. And so Neptune here, but also with Chiron, it's so interesting because I think we're going to be learning really deep lessons on what's too far. Like it'll be interesting having Neptune in Aries for almost 2 months without Saturn because this is where the ego can go get way too out there. Um, it's like a woman on TikTok that was like, we should all just do what we want. We don't know if the world's going to end. We should just do it. It's like, that's too far. That's ego. That's manic ego. It's like, I am scared. I don't know if we're going to be okay. So let me just do me. When all the Pisces energy, because it deals with compassion, empathy, deep, sensitive emotional releases, soul searching, eventually coming to like a remembrance that it's when you allow yourself to be supported by the divine, by others, and offer that same support that creates the ultimate detachment when you don't know if things are going to be okay, but there's just a surrender that it's like, well, let me just do what I feel divinely intuitively called to do. And that can still be tough to figure out, especially when Neptune goes into Aries, but that's why you have an astrologer that you can book readings with, or you can listen to horoscope, or there's plenty of other astrologers out there. There's people channeling in that, but some of this Neptune piece in our face is like there's not a numbing solution. There's not an antidepressant in the world that can like block us from the initiation of the wake up call that there probably is more that we feel like we could be doing, that we could find more strength within ourselves through a divine connection to show up even when we still feel weak or don't feel like showing up, and then we actually find strength in showing up. Like look at Simba. It's like that lazy fuck was not wanting to come back to Pride Rock. He had to be borderline coerced by a woman, like, um, and it was like he got there and he had to deal with it and the thing, and then Scar and beat him and then take the throne. But it's like he almost died in that battle. You think he felt like sitting on the throne and initiating and running a kingdom after almost dying? That's kind of how we have to like look at these things, is that there's no rest for the wicked. I mean, to be honest, I think the excuses are over once Mars and Chiron are fully out of the square. I think that it's a weird time because you have a Mars that's in its post shadow square Chiron in its home sign in a solar eclipse. Mars is at fall in Cancer. The feminine energy is offline, and we're going to see it fully when Mercury crosses it here starting on the 30th. Um, Meaning that it's weird personal zones because there's ebbs and flows of action versus receiving and rest, like the masculine, feminine, but the masculine has to lead right now, but it's not at its full strength. And then the feminine's offline, but then the feminine's offline in the sign that deals with where she's exalted, where she can dream. But with it retrograde, it's almost like, wait, where's the dream? Kind of having to like really search inward for it. So we're running to the creepy zones of Pisces first, of like, here's the things that we haven't faced yet. Here's the grief, here's the past, here's the sorrow, here's the disappointment, here's the white lies, here's the sabotage, here's the holding back, like all the, just stuff that we're afraid to face because it's hard to identify fully. And so that's what's really weird too, is that even when Neptune comes into Aries on the 30th, it's not that all of a sudden the past, is just over, or that it's just this immaculate reset. There's a part of us that still feels the past. It could kind of feel like the warrior that still remembers the hardships, but then we find a way to persevere. And it's always the feel good moment in the movies when the warrior actually gets to take a pause and gets to do a release with the medicine, people, or, talking to someone or just grieving it or whatever. And so I think that's what it is that it's not that there's not going to be cyclical cycles of grief that actually, weirdly enough, I think are more predictable, and we see it first with Neptune and Aries, whereas with Neptune and Pisces, it's kind of like, honestly, like it can feel so hard to be grounded at the end of Neptune and Pisces, like just so fogged out that it's like, forget where we're at. Like, wait, I'm on an ocean. Am I on the beach? Like, wait, there's a wave crashing in, but you could be sitting in your car at a stoplight and it feels like a wave comes crashing in, and this tsunami out of nowhere of an emotion, a sensitivity, a trigger. But now with Neptune and Aries, it's like the triggers are more like in the face. You see it coming. But again, the positive side of all of this is like it's an opening, but there's no amount of rehearsing that we can do for this. And that's what's weird, is that I think we've been rehearsing. We all, the people that are deeply committed to a spiritual journey and the connection of like wanting to see this new world. And it is a really good one. But we have to give ourselves permission to like fuck up at first. We have to give ourselves permission to still be human. We have to give ourselves permission to see that other people might be struggling hardcore and that like we can't help them. It's like, it'd be like, in that movie Titanic, they were like, they came back to search for survivors in the boats, and then everyone was like basically dead except Rose because she was on the door or whatever. But the guy, and it was a really sad moment. It was actually a really good acting moment, I thought. At least like we waited too long because everyone was dead, you know. But did he though? Because that's the hard part about this. I know this is like graphic and it can feel cold, but what if they had come back sooner? People are freaking out. Would they have pulled people out of the boat to get into the boat to make space for themselves, to be selfish, like, or tip the boat on accident, struggling? And so it's not that this energy is meant to be used as an everyman for themselves, but it is like why it's been a very teachable time, especially since Mars entered into Cancer way back in the fall before the retrograde, that it's been teaching us a really big, long, deep lesson about take better care of yourself so that you're positioned in a place to where you don't have to make those tough calls of sacrifice of what you can and can't do for people because you became overwhelmed by not having your own needs met. And that's been the deepest lesson. And you know, it can be easy to get lost in the sensationalism of Pisces and just think that life's just become this revolving door of sensitivities and issues and stuff with people, stuff with, you know, this is just what the world is, and kind of developing a 1984 like philosophy of this is what it is or whatever. But that's like weak soul growth to go there. Like it's okay to like be there for a minute, but then it's like even though you can't see it, it's just that's why I do the astrology. That's why I'll talk about it and do it in a way that most other astrologers aren't talking about. Like I just was curious. I like checked out a couple of YouTube videos of just like some people that were doing astrology and they had like videos like 13,000 views, 17,000. It's just like this hopeless romantic acting, spiritual, fluffy stuff. Another one was just like incredibly generic sun sign readings. Like all they did was like literally just read a manual of like what the houses mean and then how to look at the houses for the different signs and just being like, well, because the eclipse is here and Neptune's here, you're going to experience this without going into any depth about what the eclipse energy, what the planet energy actually means for that sign in that house, connecting it to the rest of the astrology, or even just having the balls to channel it, you know? And I think that's what's irritating for me personally as someone doing this work for a long time and as an astrologer. It's like it's good to learn this stuff, but at some point you have to really look in the mirror, and this is what Neptune and Aries is going to bring us. Like, are you actually fucking doing anything with your spirituality? Because if you're just treating free horoscopes and spiritual content and that like it's cheap, easy, accessible, like it's eating a bowl of ramen noodles and you can't digest it well and it doesn't actually have any nutritional value because it's not actually giving you strength, you're not doing anything with it, then what the fuck are you doing? I'm not singling anyone out on here specifically. I'm speaking more in generalities, but if that is triggering or that is you, then look at that. It'll change your life, you know, to be the embodied spiritual soul. But if you see people doing that, it's not about like judging them or calling it out to their face per se, unless it's like divinely mandated intuitively, or like you needed to draw like a boundary. Because I think that's the weird thing with Neptune and Aries is like, yeah, it's a return of the masculine energy, but I think there's like PTSD of the masculine too, where Neptune and Aries tries to make everyone like the earnest, nice guy fella. Or it could even be the same of the masculine energy for women, where it's like the philosophy spiritually becomes live and let live with no boundaries. And then it's just like suppressing like the sacred rage of like being violated, like not being loyal to a spiritual cause of a direction, others overstepping those boundaries. So that's the nice thing about Saturn catching up, even though Saturn in Aries is kind of hard because it's like temporary structures, it would be like having to, it'll be like living in a tent for a couple of months while the mansion's getting finished, but you don't know how long it's going to take. And it's too expensive to stay in a hotel. So you just like stay in a tent, like it's temporary. But then it's like, you have to be honest about the steps that you're taking in your life going forward to go, well, is the mansion actually coming or is that just another like white lie to like keep going and stay motivated and hopeful. And that's the hard reality is that the Pisces culture really served up like the white lies of like that it's only like a field of dreams that or the movie The Secret or manifestation that it all just like comes just by wishful hopeful thinking that even the blind side, that feminine side, was that part of manifestation is, the emotions amplify it. But if we're in fear and sorrow and the past and we're not doing that shadow work and looking at those things, those are the dominant emotions. And then that's the thing that attracts the thing, right? So we use the masculine to take the action to deal with those things. And then when we do feel the vibrations, of actually aligning with what we want to manifest, the field of dreams, we actually get the plow out and do the thing. You know, Kevin Costner could have faith or whatever in that movie, that it was all going to come, but it's like, what was the thing? It was if you build it, they will come. So you have to think about life going forward is very much about you have a lot of tools, you have a lot of openings to build what it is that you want to build. And then it's not about some cushy zone of the old reality going with you, all the ways that things worked. It's not about building the ultimate like get rich like quick scheme or the point A to point B thing. It's going to be have fun with your soul growth and lessons and fun and vibing with others and just getting out of anything that's has felt stuck in life to get out of the most sabotaging patterns to holding back God's glory of what he wants to bring to you by being okay with the new initiation of things. So I just remembered like assessments of the greater world at large, they can never be accurate from the media. They never tell the whole story. That's why Pisces is white lies and the hidden. And some people say hidden enemies. I'm kind of like, sure, I guess, but it's more so like Pisces teaches us how to not have enemies. So it's like the hidden enemy is just a representation of a person of what hides in our subconscious that we're not ready to see. So there's really beautiful lessons here with all the Pisces and Saturn, especially. I mean, I keep mentioning Saturn probably because like one, I mean, I think it is a big deal because it is the reality. But I'm also a Capricorn, so I'm Saturn ruled. But also, I've been talking in the sense of knowing like Neptune is doing its final melancholy notes in Pisces. And so at the end of this transit, it's okay to feel off, sluggish, like just kind of like not lost at sea because there's enough grounding energy, especially with the sextile Saturn to Uranus to go, okay, well, there's some stability. It's a stability where you have to surrender and have a deep spiritual connection. Like the grounding comes from the spiritual connection. Otherwise, it's trying to use stuff in this physical reality to like numb the senses, make ourselves feel better. But then there's always a curveball afterwards. There's always like hey, here's where you're not actually in a spiritual alignment, you're not doing your spiritual work. And it's an all what it's pushing towards too is it's not punishment. It's not like some Old Testament eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth thing, hellfire and brimstone. You're not some perfect Puritan energy or whatever. It's aligning us back to going how to be an alchemist, a magician, a creator. And then even though there's a lot of work to do to unpack the subconscious, the past lives, the ego, because that's all the Aries Pisces energy. But it's not meant to be like a dangling carrot because the ultimate mind fuck too that I'll finish with, where it's like you think that you do enough spiritual work or you do enough of this work and then you'll get there. But really, all along, what this has been bridging is that you have everything in the moment to go to the next step. That you can just work with that alchemical laws of the universe, meaning that if you're in fear, bring about love, because that's what a lot of this is about. The extremes of Pisces teaches us where we go from fear to love, period, you know. But the reveal of when we're in fear, we're out of alignment, we don't feel connected to spirit, lost, whatever, it's hard to celebrate in the moment because we don't have our bearing straight, but we're like way out there. But that's good because that's, if you allow it, that's a subconscious awareness of like what to bring compassion to until it alchemizes into a higher frequency of love. And so it's not, again, it's not, I said this Wednesday, it's not about an emotional, it's not about a perfect purification, like it puts the lotion on the skin, it's like some weird shit. It's like it's fucking an emotional one that goes, there are treasures, just like there's treasures at the hidden depths of the ocean in this astrology of finding what's down there. And it can feel hard and that there's all this ambition to want to move forward and create and do things with, but we're always creating every moment. And if the emotions amplify the creation, then, if you say that you want to, I don't know, build a skyscraper, and then God says, okay, and then you think it's going to be great and dreamy, but then the pile of paperwork shows up the next day, and then it's all this stuff about what you got to excavate in the soil first to even build a tower. Like, well, I don't want to look at this stuff. I don't care what's 20 feet deep. And it's like, well, you said you wanted to build a skyscraper. You need deep foundations. You got to go into your foundation, your emotions, your past, and deal with that stuff. So it's like you're getting what you asked for. Everything that's happening on some level, you're getting what you asked for. And it's not like a, militant, you deserve it thing. It's more like a, hey, empathetically, lovingly take responsibility for yourself as a soul that you chose an incarnation in 2025 during a transition of planet Earth. And you can leave if you want. I don't suggest it because, like, why make it this far whenever things are really beautiful going forward? But it takes a really poised soul to be able to use spirituality in a wholesome sense that is what's coming up, to be authentic with it and not to use it as an escapist, sensationalist way of things. So parting words is just accept the humanness of it and also find the love in all of it, because the way forward is going to be expressing our soul's true code of what it is that we came here to do. And it was never about trying to change the mind of the world or rewrite things. That's all being done automatically. It's more so just like, okay, how do I update my avatar and the spiritual character to be that expression of energy that's flowing through me, and just trusting that the circumstances and the world will just adapt in such a way that anything intuitive that's truly from the divine that you're connected to is aligning you vibrationally to trust that the next six steps are ahead before you can even see them. And so that'll be the litmus test for who succeeds these next couple of years on any level, is the ones that know how to do that versus the ones that are going, no, I can't make a move because I can't see the way forward. I can't see the stepping stone with Neptune and Aries. And it's like, well, that's you trying to, Christian the old world to come back, and trying to like double down on like what does a religion say, or what is, something of structure say that's biblical, Christian, religious, of any variety, to be like, these are the steps I need to take. And it creates like a false rigidity in the self that doesn't allow your true, authentic brightness to shine through. So appreciate you all. Check out that link for the event at the Energy Infusion Room for that really cool sleepover. It is for gals only. Sorry, fellas, but you guys can still get an astrology reading from me if you want. Of course, I do that for men, women, and kids too. I don't talk about that too much, but I do have a discount code for anyone um, that has anyone 18 years or younger, like wants to do a reading for a kiddo. They're very near and dear to my heart in terms of my mission, the younger generations, and it's actually really common in certain cultures like India, like you do a birth chart reading with a newborn to see where the soul's going. Of course, that's Vedic astrology, which is beautiful and valuable. There's no doubt all astrology levels are valuable, but mine's the Western astrology approach. So yeah, newborns are good candidates for that too. But all those links will be down below for that. The discount code, if you do want that, for someone 18 years and younger is kids, KIDS. But I think you knew how to spell that already. Even though we're deep in crazy Pisces zone energy, um, I don't think we've lost our minds that much. But it's okay. Like, if it's feeling crazy right now, find a coping mechanism that grounds you, but that doesn't set you back. And you know by now what those patterns are, what works and what doesn't. So it's like ground yourself, cope in a positive way, reach out for the support system spiritually, personally with people, get your clarity for making your next steps. And it is a really good time to take care of the self in that way, so that I feel, especially when Taurus season rolls around on April 19th, 20th, that's the time to really put the effort into making the real thing that you're maybe been working on physically, because Aries and Pisces is more about identity of self and identity of soul connected to the divine. So it's like you straighten those things out for a true spiritual, abundant, authentic expression of self. So that's how energy works. Like, we prosper whenever you're being real and you're connected spiritually. Everything else, you can do it. There's always going to be wormholes for people to jump and try to stay in the old reality, because it's not going away fully until almost 2027. But that is a rat race that is it's very bad for the central nervous system, especially with Uranus still at the end of Taurus. It rules the central nervous system. That way of vibrating, and that fight or flight or freeze, scarcity, trauma, it's not conducive to the peace that wants to come through between 2027, 2030, and things start settling down. So it's like, do the shadow work, create from a truly channeled expression of self, and understand that anything after that is probably just the ego trying to push to create safety outside of itself, when the ultimate safety was always the divine. Appreciate you all. I'll see you next time.